most people, the way they think the markets function and how the markets really work are totally different. And unfortunately, that has most people trading or investing in a way where they were really hoping, or they're relying on hope. They're guessing. Uh, Basically, they're gambling.
Al, as I ended that last segment about financial education, there's, there's a fine line there because knowledge and skill building, I should say, is two
Mhm.
separate things. I mean, you can go to college and they give a lot of knowledge. You go to tech school and there's a lot of skill building there with a lot of construction, stuff like that. Now, putting those together with the financial markets, that's a whole different ballgame. Talk a little bit about how that's done and the difference between that.
Yeah, well, and you have to have the combination. But why proper education is so important? It really comes down to this, Josh. Most people, the way they think the markets function and how the markets really work are totally different. And unfortunately, that has most people trading or investing in a way where they were really hoping, or they're relying on hope. They're guessing. Uh, Basically, they're gambling. And the problem is that you have really two ways of doing this. You can think, act, you can execute like the pros, or you can think, act, and execute like everybody else, basically amateurs. So, how do you kind of bridge that gap? It's with the proper education. And we've gone from years ago where there was almost zero education, and still in the schools. Unfortunately, high schools, colleges are really not teaching this. So, but we've gone from kind of zero education to almost too much now. I mean, you can go to the library or Barnes and Noble, and you could spend the rest of your life reading books, getting knowledge on things. By the end of whatever time period you spend there, you're going to be so confused because there's so many different things that you're just
Mhm.
going to throw up your arms and go, "I give up." So, what's important in proper education? Some areas or some sources are informational. They give you the knowledge. Maybe it's a lecture, maybe a seminar, webinar. Some are theoretical when they go into kind of the mechanics of the different assets. But unless there is an experiential component, in other words, hands on, you really can't properly build the skills to use the knowledge that you need to make you proficient and to be able to do this with confidence. So, what I mean is, and this is how we feel that you really can't learn how to trade or invest until you start trading and investing. But you don't want to do that until you've gone through kind of the educational component, the theoretical component, and then hands on. So basically, it's a teaching you, showing you, and then having you do it with somebody there to guide you, somebody who understands these markets, knows how they function, has had experience, and they can help get you to the point where you have that confidence. And really, what it is it's repeating things that work, and that's building a habit. You can build a habit by repeating things that are not working, which is not what you want to do. So that's why it's so important to be able to do this with somebody to help guide you, both while you are learning, and then also if you go home and you start to trade or invest, you want to make sure that if you have a question, if you have an issue, you can call somebody and somebody will actually answer the phone to help you. Or better yet, you can come into a bricks and mortar location and actually sit with somebody who can help guide you through whatever those issues might be. That's all part of what a proper education should include.
Yeah, that whole skill building, that kind of reminds me of back in the days when I was a heavy equipment operator. I used to be in construction, and I remember the first time I got into a bulldozer. I hopped in there, and there I sat.
Mhm.
And I could have did one of two things. I could have read the owner's manual, got some knowledge. I still wouldn't have been able to get that thing move. But I had someone that came in and showed me how to do it. Helped showed me, okay, here's what makes it go forward. Here's what makes it go backwards. Here is how you lift the blade. Here's how you lower the blade. And showed me and guided me as I was talking about through that process. So it's building that skill. So I had to do that over and over. And eventually you could almost do that in your sleep. Hopefully I didn't fall asleep at that time, but
Hopefully not.
but that's the same thing in trading and investing is you have to have a someone guide you through your decision process. That way you know how to do it the proper way. Like as
Mhm.
Al's talking about, you can't read an owner's manual, especially in the financial markets, and that's not going to help you. So it's that skill building. If you want to learn more about that skill building, our sponsor, Online Trading Academy, does these different investing classes, and these are classes where we've taught thousands, just like you. are many strategies which are designed to teach you to make better investing decisions. So let's go with callers 1 through 10. I'm going to give away some tickets for this investing class. When you call in right now, you're going to receive 2 tickets plus the retirement planner that will help you get started right away. The number is 952-814-4410. That's 952-814-4410. Al, so we talk a little bit about the knowledge and the skills, but you need I guess I should say, the right tools based on what you're going to do.
Sure.
For instance, if you're going to build a road, you're not going to just use a excavator. You're going to use an excavator and a bulldozer and a roller to compact the soil, right?
Sure. Try to do that with just a shovel.
You're exactly right. So you have to have those right tools. That's the same thing in the financial markets. Now, institutions, they use multiple tools. How are they creating income with these other tools, not just the stock market?
Well, there's really two very important components to how you trade and invest. One is, this is going to be a little controversial, but one is learning how to time the market, time changes in price. I said it there. I said it right here on the radio. And you've been told you can't time the market. Well, you've been told that basically by two groups. One is a group that doesn't know how to do it, so they tell you can't. The other is a group that knows it can be done, but doesn't want you to do it because that doesn't benefit them. What benefits them is having you need them, feel that you can't do this on your own.
And that's for monetary reasons.
Absolutely. But what if there was an investment strategy that with a high degree of accuracy could identify in advance where the big buyers and the big sellers would enter and exit the market? Would that help? And it is designed based on what the institutions show us. And really what it is it's reading a price chart. We teach people how to read a price chart because everything you need to know is there. Every price chart tells a story. You just need to know how to read that story, much like a radiologist would read an x-ray. And that's the key. That's the first part of the first component. The second component.
I just want to just kind of confirm that too, because the core strategy is designed to teach you to make those better investing decisions.
Exactly. And it was put together by people that worked on Wall Street that know how those what impacts price, what makes price change, what makes it move, because they were doing it. They were controlling order flow. So that kind of was built into the core strategy. The second component is the right asset to trade. And that is part of a plan. All of this is part of a plan. The plan should include that foundational strategy that helps you to identify the proper entry and exit points. And then the second component is what do you want? And in fact, I guess the best way to look at it is this. Look at what the end point should be. We know where you are now. You know where you are now. What do you want the future to look like? You have to identify that first before you can identify the best way of getting there. And for some people, it might be using one asset. For somebody else, it might be using something totally different. The assets that most people are familiar with are stocks and mutual funds. Those are all long-term strategies, long-term assets that you are told to hold on to for decades before you actually access any of the hopefully the profits that you have. But what if you have short-term needs? Maybe you have a family you're raising. You've got some kids you want to help go through college. Maybe you've got some emergency situations. You cannot wait decades to access what you need to cover those things now. So most people really need to have access to or education on the shorter term strategies that can help them with their needs now. And those same strategies you can utilize in retirement to generate some money instead of having to just rely on what is in your retirement accounts. This is a way of using those short-term income strategies when you're in retirement too. And the strategies we're talking about, or the assets we're talking about, are things like the foreign exchange market, called the Forex market, the futures market, the options market. And for a lot of people out there listening, you know very little, if anything, about those, or if you know something, it's probably fear. Maybe you've heard stories from people that have tried to do this on their own and haven't done well.
And that's what happens when there's no education as well.
That's what happens when there's no education. There's no knowledge of how these assets work, how to use them properly, but it's also the skill that you have to have skill. Knowledge isn't of any value to you unless you know how to use it, when to use it, and why you use it. That's really something that takes time. It's not something that you can read in a book and you've developed skills. It takes that hands-on experience, but we think the best way to do that is hands-on with somebody who can guide you, because when you start out, you may make some mistakes. You want somebody to point that out to you. If you do something really well, wouldn't you also want to know that's the right way to do it? This is why that happened, and this is how you want to continue to do that.
Yeah, exactly right. And I like when Al's talking about that plan or that pathway. I mean, think of it as like a billiards professional or a professional pool player. They have a plan, and but they need to create that pathway. So if that 8 ball is in the way of their number 3 ball, they have to either go around it, over top of it, or maybe they're going to use the 8 ball as part of that pathway. So it's having that proper plan, that pathway, and having the most clear path to get there. But you got to identify your objective. What is that end point, and how do you get there? Coming up next, we want to get into retirement, self-directing retirement, having more control of your retirement. But that gives you more opportunities with other assets like futures, Forex, and options. So coming up next, multiple assets within your retirement plans, 401ks and IRAs. This is Josh and Al, Investing with Confidence. We will be right back.